All right, so Kate is not with us today. She is at the vet getting rabies shots. I assume for her dog. She didn't say, but I'm going to make the assumptions for the dog, not for her. So before we get started, we're going to talk about a quick sponsor here for the show. We are excited to be partnered with Link, L-I-N-Q. They're a digital business card company. They think that paper business cards are wasteful and it costs a lot of money to reprint them, and then most of them get thrown away anyway. So with Link, you can actually make your own custom business card that's plastic. And when you take your Link business card and you're meeting up with somebody, you actually hold it up to the phone and it pops up an alert on the phone where they can go right to your profile and save your contact information right to their phone. It's pretty awesome. So check them out at linkapp, L-I-N-Q, app.com. And by the way, if you use the promo code Stadium Scene, all one word, you'll save 15% on your order. So welcome to the 10 Minutes With today. I'm joined by Collin and Austin of In a League of Their Own podcast out of the Wisconsin area. As you can tell from the background, gentlemen, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having us.
Here. Thank you.
So we'll get started here. I'm going to go right into it. How did you guys meet, and why did you start a podcast together?
So we met probably 8 to 9 years ago. I'm getting married to his sister, actually. So we'll be future brother-in-laws here. And yeah, we both just love sports. We both played growing up and both played past the high school level. And yeah, we just thought that talking about sports would be something fun to do. And one day it's just like, hey, let's just go for it.
So if my notes are right, it looks like you started your show in about March of this year. At least that's when the first podcast showed up. So was this a pandemic idea, or?
It's actually funny how it started. I previously had a podcast with a friend of mine where we're just kind of our niche was like gaming and like paranormal stuff, cryptic stuff. We just kind of were all over the place. And I do some tidbit solo episodes on myself about sports. And right around March Madness time, I was going to do like a breakdown on March Madness. And then I mentioned to Austin, like, hey, I'm doing an episode for this podcast to do with my buddy. You want to jump on it? Next thing you know, we're talking 2.5 hours later, the episode wraps up and we're like, hey, why don't we just take this episode and make it an episode, one of our own podcasts? So that's what ended up happening with that. And that's where we are here now. What is it, 4 months later?
That's definitely awesome. I mean, you guys have been solidly consistent, releasing your episodes from week to week, and that's usually where people go wrong right away. So they'll get started and then they burn out very quickly, and then it turns into one episode a month and then one a quarter and then done. I mean, you've kept it going consistently every week since you started, so you've got that going for you for sure. So what would a new listener expect, or I guess what would they expect to hear when they listen to your show for the first time?
So for a first-time listener, I guess it depends on what type of episode you prefer to listen to. We have 2 different types. One, we have an interview type of show that we do where we bring on former athletes, current athletes that are currently in the sports world, and just ask them questions kind of like, how did they get involved in a sport? What university did they go to? How did they treat you? That type of thing. Kind of to give a young athlete the full scope of something going before they would want to fully jump into taking that next step, or really hearing stories from some of these athletes. Like our first interview with my friend Chase Drake, he ended up playing for the Wisconsin Badgers for hockey, and he was their captain, and just talked about how much work really goes into making something like that happen instead of just having it be a dream. And then the other type of episode that we have is we recap the prior day in sports, just talk about what we think is worth talking about, and giving our own little spin on what we think, diving into it more on a deeper level than strictly just bringing something up. We'll dive into what we both feel about it, and yeah, that's kind of what we do throughout all of the major sports.
I always say we love to deviate on this show, and I want to take a step back. And you talked about your friend who came on the show who played for the Badgers. What's that like? I can't say I had any close friends that played any top tier D1 sports, but what's that like when you know somebody, coming along and then all of a sudden they're playing for this top tier program? Does that does that blow your mind? Like, how does that change your perspective on them?
I guess it really just the dedication that it takes to actually make it there. Because there's so many people that I've met along the way of playing hockey that were that good enough to like make it that far, but just didn't have the dedication to make something like that happen. So I guess it's just overall being a complete person, rather like a full nice person, showing up respectable, that type of thing. And then, yeah, I do have a couple friends that are in the NHL. Max McCormick, he plays for the Carolina Hurricanes, and Connor Hallebuck, he played for the
Oh yeah.
Winnipeg Jets. So,
Goalie, yeah,
yep.
that's very cool. I actually, one of my my friend who is from Wisconsin originally, her younger brother played high school ball and helped like put together the recruiting video for somebody who later became a Wisconsin legend. It was actually JJ Watt.
Awesome.
And it's funny because, JJ Watt's gone on to the NFL, had, a great career, injuries aside. And it's just going back, it's like, this guy was, this punk kid, 15, 16 years old, coming over to your house. Did you ever imagine that kid would go on to be like an NFL great, who's probably made more than $100 million in his career? And it's just like, no, not a chance. It's just another one of my brother's punk friends. And it's just funny to just look back and see, like, this guy's now a household name as far as football fans are concerned. It's just like, a few years ago, I knew this kid was hanging out with my brother after school.
Yeah, that's kind of like Cole Caulfield currently, who plays for the Montreal Canadiens. He's from Stevens Point here. He's a local kid, and he's way younger than me. And I just remember he was out skating with kids my age when he was a little kid, and you could just look at the kid and be like, this kid's going to be something someday. And now he's finally doing it, which is pretty cool. He scored last night.
It's also funny too, like in youth sports, you just see that one person out there who's just way better than everybody else. And like, if that person doesn't make it, I don't know what to tell you. It's crazy. Especially when you have that close proximity and you're, it's like this person's from your hometown and now they're a professional.
Yeah, it's awesome. Joe Pavelski too. He's
Oh,
the first one from here that went to do something. So that's awesome.
So I'm going to try to bring it back on topic here. So you've been podcasting and producing videos now for a few months. What's something you've learned that you would share with a rookie, either podcaster or a rookie video producer, that you wish you would have known on day one?
Don't be afraid to fail, I guess. Find your niche and just kind of roll with it. And I guess at the end of the day, the most important thing to remember is you're doing it for yourself. So if the numbers aren't there, the subscribers aren't there, the views, all that'll come with time, so long as you're passionate about what you're talking about. So again, just matter of finding your niche, and putting your head to the grindstone and going at it every day. Trying to get out there on every platform possible. I know we're pretty much on every social media platform you can think of, just interacting with other podcasters, other sports brands, which have led to a couple sponsorships that we've picked up along the way as well. So yeah, more or less the big thing to take away from it is just don't be afraid to fail.
Yeah, and the one thing that I'd add to that too is make sure you're having fun. It's supposed to be fun. If you're not having fun doing it, then I feel like in the long run, it won't turn out to be what you first hoped that it would probably be. So just make sure that you're having fun doing what you're doing. I feel like that's the biggest thing that I always encourage to everyone, that no matter doing whatever you want to do, is just make sure you enjoy what you're doing. And I feel like you'll be happy.
I mean, I think the term or the phrase they say is that, if you're enjoying yourself and it doesn't feel like a job, you'll never work a day in your life. So it's definitely true, even when it comes to something that you do on the side like this. Absolutely. So I'm going to go ahead and we'll move it along. This is actually Maybe it's because Kate's not here today. Usually if Kate's here, that's when we really deviate off topic. She comes in with these just completely off the wall questions. So maybe we should just not let her be on this show anymore. I can say that too because she never watches. She never goes back and listens. She never watches. So I can say basically whatever I want and she'll never know about it unless her mom tells her. So that's Kate for you. So so where do we find it? Where do we find your show? Where do we find your social media?
So you can go to the best way to find us would probably be going to Google, and if you just type in a League of Their Own podcast, I believe our YouTube channel pops up there, and from there we have our links to Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, pretty much all of our major sites. We also have the link to our merchandise for the website for our merchandise on there. We also are on Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere that's associated with Anchor, as they're one of our sponsors. And then, yeah, I mean, around here, if you end up running into one of my hockey friends or around the country, I'm sure they'll tell you about it. Word of mouth. Hopefully it's moving good that we've hoped. So, but yeah, otherwise, yeah, just strictly online, just the major platforms. It's in a League of Their Own podcast.
Are you taking advantage of the professional connections yet for a guest, or have you had any of them on yet, or is that in the works?
That's currently in the works. There's we potentially have a professional soccer player who is in Russia. He plays over in Russia that I played hockey with along the way. He now plays professional soccer over in Russia. So him, and then we have a few that we're still waiting to hear back. Current seasons are still going on, so don't want to get in the way of doing that stuff.
Yeah, that's rule number one when booking guests is never bother an athlete during the season. During the off season, you get a little bit better chance if you can get past their agent.
Right.
That tends to be the biggest hurdle with athletes, is that you'll send the request to their agent and the agent's just like, dooey, unfortunately. But sometimes you can get them directly on the social media, and that's typically where we've lucked out with the athletes we've talked to in the past, for sure. Anyway, so Austin, Collin, thanks again for being on the show today. It's In a League of Their Own podcast. Check it out wherever you download your favorite podcasts, and subscribe to them on YouTube. So again, thanks for being on the show, and look forward to hearing your future episodes.
Thank you, DJ.
So much. Yeah, thank you so much for having us on, and we'll continue to watch your podcast as well.
Appreciate it. We're really excited. We got a couple of guests in the we're trying to get their final schedules locked in. We're very, very excited about a couple of them that we have on the verge here. So I'll tell you when we go offline who it is, but I don't want to give it out to the general public just yet. So anyway, check us out at stadiumscene.tv, at Stadium Scene on Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, and TikTok, at Stadium_Scene on Instagram, and make sure you hit that subscribe button on YouTube, and we will see you next time.